US Secretary of State Hillary Clinton's arrived in Egypt for first talks with the country's newly elected Islamist President, Mohammed Morsi. Now, she says she's there to push for a completion of post-revolution change in the country and for economic restoration. Let's talk about this visit and catch up with Middle East expert and independent journalist Larry Everest. He's on the line from California. Larry, hi. Thank you for being on RT. OK, what is the significance of Clinton's visit at a time, of course, when Egypt is still so unstable internally, with the parliament still banned and the cabinet yet to be put together?
Well, Hillary Clinton claims she's there to help the Egyptian people themselves determine their future, but that's not what's going on. Hillary Clinton and the rest of the U.S. establishment are working in a very fraught situation to make sure the Egyptian military, with which they have deep and long-standing ties, remains the dominant force in the Egyptian state as it remains today, and that the Egyptian state, which was so discredited under Mubarak, be actually re-legitimized and strengthened by incorporating new social forces like the Muslim Brotherhood. Of course, the Brotherhood represents no fundamental break with Egypt's role in the U.S.-dominated global capitalist economy, nor a break with U.S. interests in the Middle East.
Foreign relations are a funny old thing, aren't they, Larry? Let's just think about this. The US, of course, backed Egypt's ousted President Hosni Mubarak for decades, but now they're supporting the uprising that toppled him and subsequently shifted their position a number of times since. What are these shifts of allegiances? Why are they happening?
Well, let's understand there was no revolution in Egypt. State power remains in the hands of the same institutions and class, the U.S.-linked bourgeoisie in Egypt, as under Mubarak. It's just there's the strong Mubarak has been replaced, but the regime remains. But the United States and the other players in Egypt understand that the Mubarak regime can't simply be revived. It needs a facelift. It needs to broaden its legitimacy without any real fundamental change in Egypt. Let's not forget that 4 of 10 Egyptians remain under the poverty line. 3 out of 4 youth are unemployed. So what's going on now is a very high wire act to try to reshape and make the Egyptian state appear much more inclusive, more democratic, more responsive to the needs of the Egyptian people without really changing anything fundamental.
Of course, Larry, please correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm thinking the US has also been providing generous financial support to the country's military. The yearly aid over $1 billion, according to my research. How much power over internal affairs does such cash flow, if you like, give the US?
Well, it's that cash flow, $1.3 billion. But even more than that, Egypt is dependent on the global capitalist economy, in which the U.S. is probably the dominant player. And let's not forget that the United States said very, very little when Egypt's military, before the election in mid-June, before the final round of the presidential election, issued a series of decrees banning the parliament, dissolving parliament, giving itself the right to rule by decree and draft a new constitution. And can you imagine if Iran or the government of Syria had taken such moves? There would have been howls of protest from Washington, but very, very little was said about that. At the same time, the U.S. does feel it's essential to, quote unquote, continue the democratic process in order to give the appearance of greater inclusivity and legitimacy. And I think a basic point in all this is neither the United States nor the Muslim Brotherhood nor the Egyptian military are willing, able, or capable of bringing liberation to the Egyptian people. For that, you need a real revolution akin to what Russia had in 1917.
Larry, only got 30 seconds left. A final thought from you. Let's stand back, look at the bigger picture if we can. How much influence does the US still have in the region in the aftermath of the Arab Spring? As you see it, is it more or less than it had before?
The U.S. remains a dominant power. It's trying to maintain that dominance in the new situation with new tactics in the wake of the Arab Spring, but also with continuing its military intervention. We now see threats of military assault on Syria, threats of war on Iran. So the U.S., as people are rising up against the old order, the U.S. imperialists are seeking to maintain their grip on this region.
Thanks for your thoughts. Larry Everest, independent journalist and Middle East expert on the line there from California.
Thank you.